Hey, what's up, everybody? Tim Albrecht here, and welcome to this week's episode of the Ask a YFP CFP segment of the Your Financial Pharmacist Podcast, where we feature questions from you, the YFP community, to be answered by one of our very own fee-only certified financial planners. Please note this podcast is intended for educational purposes and should not be considered financial or investment advice, as we do not know all the variables to one's personal situation when answering a question. Before we jump into today's question, a shout out to our extraordinary YFP financial planning team that makes this segment possible. Your Financial Pharmacist offers fee-only comprehensive financial planning services that are customized to the pharmacy professional. So whether you want to pay off your student loans, make the right investment decisions, or simply build a solid financial plan, we'll help get your income working for you rather than the other way around. You can learn more by visiting yfpplanning.com. Again, that's yfpplanning.com. Okay, this week's question comes from Christian in Arkansas.
Hi, this is Christian from Greenbrier, Arkansas. And I was wondering about the best way to make a large one-time payment on my student loans at the end of forbearance. I have 4 federal loans, all about the same amount, with interest ranges from 5 to 6%. At the end of forbearance, we plan to pay off half of the amount. And I was wondering if it would be best to pay off the 2 highest interest loans or to pay down some on all 4 of the loans. We're hoping to build a house within the next 2 years, so I wanted to make the best decision to minimize effects to my credit as well.
Thank you, Christian, for submitting your question. We featured on this week's Ask a YFP CFP segment of the Your Financial Pharmacist Podcast. Tim Baker, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so there's some moving pieces here. So the question is, we're saving money. How do we deploy that for these 4 federal loans that are all about the same interest rate? I think even backing up, I'm like, are you sure you want to do that? And not to be facetious, but when I see a major purchase on the horizon, such as a home build, sometimes cash is king. And, we're in a little bit of a moving target because obviously we have this extended forbearance, and it might be extended beyond that, Christian, with a lot of the news dropping here recently about Fed loan, and even I think Congress asking, are these student loan services prepared to go back live? Right. And they're saying, no, we're not. We're not. I wouldn't be surprised if this gets extended into next year. So given those 2 things, I would say it might be better to sit on the cash. The other reason is it's not going to affect your credit. If you pay off a student loan, say you have 4 loans and say you can get that down to 2, that's not really going to affect your credit at all. The main drivers, and I know, Tim, you might have this at the ready, but we did a whole thing on, what affects your credit score and all that stuff. And paying off a student loan is not going to move the needle at all. Typically, the big drivers there are things like credit card utilization. As a pharmacist, you typically get a big feather in your cap from number of accounts, because typically every push of student loans, so think by semester, is an account that's on there. Even if you pay those off, those will be on your credit report for 10 years. So the credit stuff, I would just say dismiss that. And again, if you have things like consumer debt, obviously that would be without question where you put that, but that's going to be the big driver. So if you're set on deploying that cash for the purposes of paying it off, I would probably just go with the 2 highest interest ones, because it's a math equation. But from there, I would really take a step back and question some of the things that you have going on with the financial plan, because those dollars might be better used elsewhere. And oftentimes when people are doing a home build, it's a multi-step thing. It could be that you're paying for the raw land, and then it could be that you're obviously, taking and putting money down to actually do the build. And then we're going through this is like, after you move in, there are umpteenth million things that you either want to buy, furnish, change, renovate. It's insane. So Christian, I don't know if this is your first rodeo in terms of going down home purchase, but it would definitely be something where if you have the cash and this forbearance is kind of giving you the ability to build that up, it might be better to put that in a CD for a year or 2 and allow that to do somewhat better than what the interest rates are giving you, and go from there. Because at the end of the day, we're going to be stuck at 0% for at least into the fall. I would not be surprised if it went longer. But even after that, if you were to refi, you could probably refi your loans in and around 3%. So even that, you're getting around to the point of like, why don't you just hold on to the cash rather than and I understand that sometimes it can be an emotional thing, so that plays a part too. Of I just want to get these loans done with. But those would be all the questions that I would be asking you if we were sitting in the same room or on a Zoom call and kind of working through that.
Tim, great thoughts. And this again is another example of taking a step back to look at the rest of the financial plan, asking good questions. Here you bring up a great point of the importance of cash when we're talking about big transactions. And maybe that applies, maybe it doesn't necessarily in this situation, but I think it's a good reminder of the value that those questions can bring to help us broaden out our perspective as we're looking at any one given situation. So Christian, appreciate the question. And I will also mention, Tim talked a little bit about credit. We did talk about credit 101, previous episode 162. So we talked a little bit about what makes up a credit score, the importance of credit as that, of course, being a thread of the financial plan and impacts so many different parts of the financial plan, credit security considerations, improving credit score, and so forth. So you can check that out at episode 162. Christian, as a small thank you for submitting your question, we're going to be sending you a super comfy YFP t-shirt. And to those that are listening, we'd like to have your question featured on an upcoming episode. And you can send us your question by going to yourfinancialpharmacist.com/ask YFP, or you can send us an email at info@yourfinancialpharmacist.com. Have a great rest of your week.